Welcome to Pulp Mortem, the search for a lost literary classic from the Pulp era. My name is Jake, and how do you guys feel about getting political today? What's that you say? There's nothing political on YouTube? I know, it's so strange, right? But before we get to the book, I'm going to blow your guys' minds. Sometimes politicians have secrets.
Well, obviously...
In the early decades of the 20th century, there was a state senator with a hidden side. He was a secret science fiction nerd.
Go outside, nerd.
Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it was a secret or not. I like to think it is. Likewise, I kind of like to imagine that maybe some of our political leaders secretly moonlight as science fiction authors. In fact, if you think about it, there is something otherworldly about some of them. Ralph Milne Farley was a pseudonym for Roger Sherman Hoare. Hoare was born on April 8, 1887, and he died in 1963 at the age of 76. He was a great-great-grandson of Roger Sherman, who signed some documents or something like that, and he was partially responsible for founding something. What was it? Shoot. I can't remember. Oh well.
History began on July 4th, 1776. Everything before that was a mistake.
And yes, his last name is Hoare. H-O-A-R, Hoare. Listen, I know it's... let me talk. Grow up, okay? Hoare received his bachelor's degree from Harvard in 1909 and his law degree 2 years later. The same year, he served as state senator for Massachusetts. Look at Calvin Klein here in his whitey tighties on the cover. He also practiced law, was a U.S. district attorney for Massachusetts, and authored many books on the subject. But obviously these tiny achievements meant nothing. Hoare felt like he should actually do something with his life, live up to his great-great-grandfather's legacy and, make something of himself. So naturally, he began contributing to the pulps. Argosy published The Radio Man in 1924, and it became Hoare's most successful work, spawning multiple sequels. Hoare was also an inventor, cartoonist, musician, and teacher, because of course he was. Oops. There, that's better. Sorry, I must have been pretty rough there to start. Which brings us to the radio beasts. When Miles Cabot invented radio matter transmission, he used it to visit our neighboring world of Venus. There he found himself on a world of giant insects and winged men who conversed by means of natural radio. And there, on the radio planet, he found a bride, a kingdom, and a home. But the menace of the giant Formians, intelligent ant-like beings who had once been the masters of this world, was a constant threat to his new realm. The Radio Beast is an adventure-filled and colorful science fiction classic of the war between these monsters, the embattled humans, and the huge bee-like beings who held the balance of power. The Radio Beasts is the first sequel to The Radio Man. It was serialized in 4 parts in Argosy in 1925. The complete novel was first available in Fantastic Novels magazine in 1941, and then this ace paperback that I own was published in 1964 for 40 cents. The cover is by the great Ed Emshwiller, and it's a pulpy treat. Fairymen, ants with guns, Hot Wheels, and the shortest toga on Venus. Drafty Miles. It's brightly colored, action-packed, it's just fun. You shouldn't have any trouble finding a copy for well under $10. Now, this is actually the second time I'm recording this episode. The first time I had some sound issues, so I had to scrap the whole thing. I was kind of upset, so I went for a walk, and my feet just led me to recycled books again. And I actually found this copy of The Radio Beasts for $3, and I couldn't resist it. The cover is just too cool, and honestly, both covers are really cool. All right, let's talk about what I liked. Unless you want to keep the conversation political. I did kind of tease that, didn't I? Frankly, I make the best pulp reviews. People they say, Jake, your reviews are tops. I said, I would never say that. They said, they're just the tops. I said, excuse me. I said, okay. Sorry, I probably should imitate both sides, right? This isn't really a political channel. We're just having fun with old books, so I guess here we go. What's that? Someone said, I smell toast. Not a joke. There, no partiality, right? All right, let's talk about what I liked.
Gets all wee-weed up.
Hoare's inspiration. You won't be 20 pages in before the similarities between this book and Burroughs' Barsoom series just jump right off the page and smack you in the antenna. This isn't too surprising considering Hoare and Burroughs were actually friends. I kind of imagine it was more of an agreement, like, hey, you get Mars and I'll take Venus or something like that. The Radio Beasts is in the same style as those books. If you like Burroughs, chances are you'll like Ralph Milne Farley.
It's all wee-weed up.
Recap. I soon discovered that this was a part of what's known as the Great Years series, and once again I was jumping in the middle of a series.
Ah, here we go again.
However, the recap was so concise and so tight, and it felt very thorough that I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. I felt up to speed. Every time we met a returning character, even late into the book, Horde did a very good job of just filling in those quick details. The fact that I was in the second part actually didn't bother me like I thought it would. So, good on Horde for being sensitive to new readers. I'm sure it's better to start at the Radio Man, but you won't do wrong if you start here.
Gets all wee-weed up.
Pulpy prose. When I picked up this book, I had a pretty good idea of what writing style I was getting myself into, and I was not disappointed. But alas, horrors! This reads like it was written for a radio program. It's fun, it's dramatic, it's campy, but it's all very competent. There's just nothing highbrow here. It's just pulp.
Gets all wee-weed up.
The pace. Good heavens, this is action-packed.
No more talking. Time for action.
Perhaps the first book has more of that sense of wonder or fish out of water type feel, but this one, it hits the ground running, and from there it is just antennae to the walls action.
Let's get it all!
I do believe it is physically impossible to be bored while reading this book, and I read the whole thing in one sitting. And now, the bad.
Did I say those words?
While important characters and events were recapped, the Venusian terminology used in here wasn't.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
How far is a stad? How long is a paraparth? What's a curtool? I still don't know. But none of this is Horror's fault, so no points off.
Did I say those words?
There's an over-reliance on coincidence and luck. To the extreme.
Lucky.
I mean it. Don't even think about turning your brain on while reading this book. Make sure it's off. I literally lost count of the amount of times that our hero, Miles Cabot, miraculously escaped death. Dozens.
I am so fortunate.
In fact, he was shot and left for dead 3 times. I'm not even joking.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Oh. Okay.
The amount of luck and coincidence packed into this small book is quite literally unbelievable.
Did I say those words?
Unintentional, inappropriate humor, at least for the immature among us.
That's what she said.
Of course, there was the usual ejaculated dialogue tag. That was fairly common during this era. But there is one sequence in this book that is hard to believe it's not intentional. It wasn't, but it's hard to believe it. His fingers were bruised from their terrific impact with the face of the aquatic monster. He was naked and cold. His toga and radio set were gone, but otherwise, he seemed to be all right. Thoroughly aroused now, he stood erect, stretched his arms and legs, drew a few deep breaths, and engaged in some rapid setting up exercises. Those over, he felt much better.
There's got to be a better way to say that.
Grow up, everybody. Now get out your magnifying glass and let's fry some ants. I love me some weird alien names, and the Venusian variety this week are particularly exotic. Ha-ba-ba, Nan-Nan, Glamp-Glamp.
What kind of stupid name is that?
Potherus the Himernian. No, that's a different word. Don't look that up, kids. But my favorite is Polblath. Polblath the Mango.
These allegations are
Possibly my favorite line in a pulp novel ever. But he could see nothing which held out hope. But then his scientific mind came to the rescue. I am going to strive to incorporate this phrase into my daily vernacular. The burden of a sink bursting with dishes bore heavily upon Jake. But then his scientific mind came to the rescue. So what's the verdict? Personal collection. And then pass it around to your little buddies just like it was 1941. When people think of cheap science fiction pulps, this is what they think of. Either you love it or you hate it, but if you're watching this, I'd be willing to bet that you love it. Is this a lost classic? Nope. Is this a memorable piece of art? Nope. However, if I stumble across any of the Radio Man novels between $2 and $3, that's a no-brainer. You don't even need to use your scientific mind to figure out there are worse ways to spend an afternoon. And that is my review of the Radio Beasts. As always, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time with Seahorse in the Sky!
I am tired of the same old faces, the same old things.